Hey guys, just got back from a family trip to Ocean Shores and we had a lot of fun. And I actually met up with a subscriber named Catherine, really nice lady, passionate about gardening. It was fun meeting her and talking with her. She ended up buying a unique marmalade, the same rhododendron that is in the banner of my YouTube channel. It was the last one I had in a 3-gallon pot. She was real happy to get it for a friend of hers. So anyway, we had a lot of fun there, and I got back from Ocean Shores and had something awaiting for me here, and it kind of brings me to a subject. I get a lot of people saying that they don't care for rhododendrons because they don't bloom long enough. Well, it's true. Hydrangeas and you know, there's other wildflowers and roses and things like that that will bloom longer through the summer. However, a lot of those things don't bloom as early as rhododendrons. They don't start blooming in February, March, April, or even May sometimes. So you really can find rhododendrons if you have different varieties that will bloom different times of the year, and this just goes to show it right here. I got back from Ocean Shores and rhododendron polar bear was almost in complete bloom, and just in the last couple days has opened up and is just looking spectacular. Now you can see the tag there. I bought this variety from Downs Rhododendron off Little Rock Road a few years ago, and I'm still trying to get it established. It should have bigger leaves in that, but last summer was a real hot summer. I mean, I'll almost call it a drought, but we just keep watering it real well. It's doing great. As you can see, it's flowering really nicely. Just a real nice white with kind of a greenish red down in the throat there. And it is just, it didn't look this good last year. I'm looking forward to just keeping it watered this year and seeing if I can get that new growth to come out the way it should with really long leaves. When we bought it, the leaves were probably close to 9 inches long hanging from it, and it was just a spectacular plant, and it'll be there again. It's supposed to end up like a tree in a way eventually, and it'll get real big and tall here in this spot. Anyway, thought that was real neat. So I took some cuttings of that rhododendron last year, and you know, some of the big leaf varieties you just never know about. If you've seen some of my other videos, you've seen that you know, I've tried some of the bigger leaf species and had a real hard time with them. So you know, when I try those, it's more of an experiment than anything. And I tried taking some of the cuttings of the polar bear, and I was a little surprised at what I found. I didn't know that I was going to get any of them to take, and I went out there the other day and checked on the propagation frame and found, I think it was 3 little cuttings that were just starting to pop up in there, and they're looking really just outstanding. So I think I'm going to have some nice little polar bear cuttings and be able to plant them out on the property. But it just shows you that, you know, I'll have rhododendrons blooming in, what are we, June 27th today? So, and you know, there's varieties that bloom into July. So when you get different varieties, you can have them blooming all different kinds times of the year. Why don't we head out there and take a look at those guys in the propagation frame and see what they look like right now. Alright, so here we are at the frame, and we'll lift this glass and see what we've got here. Ooh, there's that Sir Charles Lemon. You can barely tell them apart from the rest of them now with those leaves. That little guy right there. He's really coming out nice, and there's his little buddy. That leaf bud is starting to shoot up. We're going to have some Sir Charles Lemon, but we're not talking about that right now. We're looking at the polar bear. So here are the polar bear cuttings that I took last fall, and it looks like right away last fall, actually maybe a month or so after I took the cuttings, those leaf buds right there started swelling, and I thought, oh no, I'm going to get this new growth going into winter, but it actually stopped. It got cold enough and the new growth stopped. Now that one I thought was just going to take off this year, and it's really just kind of sitting there thinking about it. But in the meantime, a few others took off. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and then possibly 4, actually definitely 4. That guy did not look like that, but his leaf buds are really starting to open up. But I think I'm going to get some more in there. So I'm really excited to see that plant grow on into the future. Like I said, it's supposed to be tree-like and grow just really tall and huge. And can you imagine all of those white blossoms you saw just covering a huge tree, 12 foot tall eventually, kind of overhanging that little path? Anyway, these are the visions I see of the future with these rhododendrons. It just takes time. You got to be patient, and you just got to give it time and watch it unfold. That's what's missing a lot these days, I think, is just patience. So especially young people like us, we got all the time in the world, so it's best to just hang out and see what unfolds. And there's the other side. It just keeps moving along. There's a variety over there, North, really pretty. I just went over to Rainier Rhododendron, my friends that propagate rhodys, and they have a little business, Rainier Rhododendrons, and Nate and Lolly, and they I gave them a North last year. We trade rhodys, and hers bloomed real nice, and she just fell in love with it. I've got a bunch on the landscape out there in the front, and they are just looking beautiful. Once you get them going, they do great. I've never had a problem with them, but they are a little tougher to propagate. I stuck a whole bunch of them last year and got one. You know, every year I stick a bunch and I get a couple. There's another variety that oh, that's in the other side. Let's move back over. There's another variety here that I have no problem getting them, but I have to stick a bunch, and I get a few. I think I stuck like 40 or 50 apricot fantasy down that strip where you see a bunch of dead leaves. And I think I'm going to end up with about 8 of them, which is cool, you know. I got eight rhododendrons out of it, and when they get bigger, they're just really nice, that apricot fantasy. In fact, that's the rhody on my Facebook page, Kincaid's Nursery. If you wanted to head over there and check it out, the banner is an apricot fantasy. Another real desirable rhododendron. It's, I don't know how new it is, but it's, you know, it hasn't been out forever, but really pretty one. And there is a bigger apricot fantasy right there. That's in a 7-gallon pot. Really needs to get planted in the ground. I don't like leaving these in pots for too long. If you take care of them in a pot, they do real well, especially in this shade house. This is 50% shade cloth, I've said before in my other videos, but they do real well in here as long as you keep them watered and fertilized. But I really like to get them in the ground. In fact, you know, in the future, I want to start building some beds in the ground on the other side of some real tall fir trees, so I've got natural shade with filtered sunlight, and grow them in soil mixed with manure and ball and burlap them. You just don't see that every day anymore. Everybody's getting away from growing them in the ground and then ball and burlapping them, because it's just a lot more labor intensive. But when you're just a small hobby nursery like me, and you're trying to put your energy into quality, it just makes more sense to do it that way. Plus, there's less fuss with the rhododendrons. You know, in pots, the temperature fluctuates more easily. They can dry out easier. But anyway, you can see it still looks really nice, and you can keep rhododendrons in pots and keep them real nice looking. In fact, Catherine and I were talking about that at Ocean Shores, and I was telling her my opinion on it. But as you can see, there is a rhododendron in a big 7-gallon pot that's been in a pot for a long time, and it looks really healthy. Anyway, that's an apricot fantasy, like I was saying on the banner of my Facebook page. My wife won't let me sell that one. I don't know why. I just keep repotting it up and keeping it. I think it's because she's worried that I won't get any more, but but they just keep coming. You know, I get a few every year here and there, but that's one of her very favorite varieties, that apricot fantasy. So I always keep a few in stock for her, and we just keep planting them out. I've got one tree where there's just nothing but apricot fantasy planted around it, and then rhody around that at the bottom. So when it matures, it'll just be a big ball of yellow and orange, which she was really looking forward to. So a lot of what I've got in here now is, we always just end up back in the hoop house, don't we? Oh well, it's a lot of fun. a lot of what I've got in here now is just plants that I need to get planted out on my property. In fact, there's my species again, and gosh, I'm really getting into the species, and I want to show you a little area, a little thing I'm going to be doing with these, but I should shoot a video of that. I think I'm gonna. There's an area I'm going to start clearing out, and I think I'm going to capture that as I do it and show you where my little species garden's going to go. I do have some species rhododendrons planted out with the rest of my hybrids, but the rest of these are going to go in a little protected sanctuary. So those hydrangeas are really blooming now. It's kind of funny, that one was sold as a blue hydrangea and it's more pink than the pink hydrangea. But that glowing embers did exactly what I wanted to. Just turned out to be real beautiful deep pink, and I think it'll do even more in the bright sun. Well, like I said, we're in 50% shade in here, so it's probably not reached its full potential. And there's some of those little baked potatoes on a rhody. Did some air layering this year. Air layered that Senator Jackson rhododendron that I have never been able to get to propagate, and I'm really excited to see if that took. Did 5 air layers, and boy, that one is just that pure white variety. Look it up on Google Images, Senator Jackson. Just you know, imagine that lining your driveway. It's just, the problem is I haven't been able to get any cuttings to take. And there's all those emerald green, or not emerald green, green giant arborvitae. They're growing really great too. They're starting to, they kind of went through a little bit of a shock period coming from Florida to here. But now that it's warming up here again, you can see all the little yellow tips. They're starting to put on growth again. And we'll see how big they get this year. I'll update that video and show you how big they're getting as the season goes on, how fast the growth rate is. Now they're not even really established yet, so it probably won't be what it should be, but ultimately, we'll just keep an update on that. Last time I was in here, I took a video and called this plant ebony pearl, or pink pearl. It's not, it's ebony pearl, and it is really doing well and healthy. I like that new growth. It's kind of a darker growth, and then it gets real light pink flowers on it. Didn't bloom this year. It's still a young plant. I got that one from Nate and Lolly at Rainier Rhododendron. And which reminds me, I need to take them a couple varieties that I don't think she has. We just go back and forth trading. The deer continue to mangle the strawberries, but I've been working on getting in a corner post over there. And I'm going to start running some fencing, so we're going to protect the garden. That's what's going on. Enjoy the morning.